Hello friends, welcome again. Friends, in today's video lecture, we want to discuss Impressionism as an important literary movement found in English literature. Here, we will discuss the origin of the term Impressionism, the meaning and features of Impressionism, and major Impressionistic writers of English literature. But before that, I request all my viewers to please subscribe to this channel so that you will get the notification whenever I upload a new video on English language and literature. Now let's begin. Impressionism. Friends, this is a different literary movement, just like we have Realism, Classicism, Romanticism, Symbolism, Imagism, and others. In the same manner, we have this movement, Impressionism, which we come across in English literature towards the end of 19th and the beginning of 20th century. That means when we read literature written at the end of Victorian era, we come across this kind of literature which is influenced by this movement of Impressionism. This movement actually was inspired by French painting. During at the end of 19th century, there were some French painters like Vincent van Gogh, Auguste Renoir, and so many others. They innovated a new style of painting their pictures, and the English writers of English literature, they were influenced by those painters. So in short, you can say that the movement Impressionism in English literature actually comes from French painting. The French painters, they adopted a new style of expressing their emotions on canvas. In the same manner, the English writers also followed the same style, the same manner of expression of their ideas and emotions in their novels. Now let's try to understand how this Impressionism, this movement originated. The term Impressionism was coined by the French critic Louis Leroy. Please remember this name, Louis Leroy. And he has used this term to describe the late 19th century art movement. Art movement means we are talking about painting. Impressionism in literature, as I told you, originated from French style, from French technique of new painting, newly innovated by the French painters. There were some painters like Vincent Monet, Cassatt, Renoir, and all others. They developed this new style of expression during this period. Please remember this date, 1867 to 1886. During this short period, 1867 to 1886, these painters innovated this new style. But when we talk about English literature, friends, we have some major writers like Joseph Conrad, Henry James, James Joyce. They adopted this French style of painting, the same style, and they applied the same technique in writing novels. The word impression, what does it mean? Now let's try to understand this. The word Impressionism actually comes from the word impression. Now impression is what? Impression is an image. Say for example, when you look at some object, you are right now looking at me, and when you close your eyes, what happens? You still see the same picture in your mental eyes. So there is an impression remains in our mental eyes, in our mind. Okay, so this is a bit kind of psychological thing, right? Psychologically, we receive impressions of this external world. When we look at this world, when we look at different objects, the impressions of these objects stay in our mind and heart. So this movement, Impressionism, is concerned with this psychological expression of the impressions which the writers, the poets, the novelists have received about this external world. Okay, in other words, you can define Impressionism as, like when an author focuses his attention on the character's mental life. We are living two kinds of life. One is the external life. Okay, we move from here and there, we travel from one place to the other, we do different actions in our life, that is external. But at the same time, there is mental life also which is existing. Here, the novelist of Impressionistic movement, they focused more on the mental life of the characters, their emotions, their impressions, their sensations, and all such things. Okay, or you can say in different words, like it is a kind of desire. Desire means wish. The novelist tries to capture the fleeting and sensory effect of a scene. Okay, the momentary impression that it left on the artist or that it leaves on the viewer. Say for example, let me try to explain this in detail. When a poet or a novelist visits a beach, okay, he looks at the beauty of the beach. Now he comes back home and then he has already received the image of that beach in his mind, and he associates his emotions with that picture and tries to express his emotions in words. Okay, so that literature which exposes or which expresses the psychological image, impression of the outside world, external world, is known as Impressionistic literature. Okay, now the question is, why is it called Impressionism? As I told you, there are two kinds of realities. One is the external reality which we see with our eyes, okay, and the second one is the internal reality which we have received, the impressions of the outside world which we have received. So two kinds of realities are there. Okay, the Impressionistic writers, they try to reflect, they try to express not the external reality of life but the impressions of the external world which they have received. Okay, so that is why they are called Impressionistics, right? They aim at presenting the impressions which they have received. Now the next question is, what are the major features or characteristics of Impressionistic literature? There are four major important characteristics or features of this kind of literature. One of them is ambiguous meaning. Ambiguous means what? Ambiguous means it has multiple meanings. It doesn't have one single meaning. Sometimes the Impressionistic literature confuses the reader. Why? Because there is not one single meaning. Okay, so that's why their narrative style is such, the themes are narrated in a very ambiguous manner, confusing manner. Okay, their literature, and that is the reason why has more than one meanings, multiple meanings. Here the writer gives the reader more scope to think and judge and leaves the reader to draw his own conclusions. Okay, so the writer doesn't say that my poetry or my novel has this meaning. It is left to the readers to decide what the meanings can be taken out of this such literature. So in short, you can say it is kind of reading between the lines. So the things are not very clearly mentioned here. It is up to the reader to read between the lines in order to derive at the meaning of the text. So that is why such literature is known as ambiguous literature. Second important feature of impressionistic literature is personal point of view. Now, what is this personal point of view? In one of my previous videos, I have discussed about objectivity and subjectivity. Personal and impersonal. Literature can be personal, literature can be impersonal. Personal means what? The writer, the author expresses his own personal emotions and experiences in literature. That is personal literature, subjective literature. And when the writer expresses the world in an objective manner, that is objective literature or impersonal literature. The impressionistic literary work is always personal by nature. The novelist tries to express his own point of view about life, about whatever he observes. Okay, these writers, they are opposed to the objectivity and disinterestedness of the Victorian writers. During the Victorian era, 19th century, Matthew Arnold, an important critic of English literature, discussed about objectivity. During the 20th century, T.S. Eliot also discussed about maintaining objectivity in expression, but these writers, they violated this theory, they rejected this theory. Okay, they try to express their own personal point of view of life and society. So that is the second important feature. The third one is emotions and sensations. Now emotions, you understand, right? Sensation means we have 5 senses, right? We have the sense of seeing, sense of hearing, sense of touch, sense of smell. Okay, these are the 5 different senses. Okay, these writers are mainly concerned, they are trying to express the sensations or the experiences of life which are sensuous, right? The background of the characters, they try to express sensory background. Impressionistic writers, they are less interested at looking at scenes in terms of literal location. Okay, instead they are more concerned with the sounds, smells and feelings, right? For example, the writer wants to draw a character and wants to show that the character is walking. So instead of showing the character as walking in the field, they describe the light, how the sunlight hits the grass. So they are mainly focusing on the color. Okay, the gentle buzzing of the bugs, sounds are created, colors are created by such writers, and such literature arouses, they appeal our 5 senses. So that's why you can say such literature is full of sensations and emotion. And the fourth important characteristic is no chronology, or you can say, in other words, they are psychological narratives, right? Now, no chronology means what? We early in the morning we wake up, then we brush our teeth, then we take bath, we get ready, we go to the college. These are different actions which we perform, but they are presented in a chronological manner, right? So whatever happens first is described first, whatever happens next is described next. This is called proper order in which the actions are presented. That is called chronology. But in Impressionistic literature, this chronology of action is not followed. There is no unity of time, place and action. Okay, why? Because it is a psychological expressions. In psychology, in our mind, the actions do not happen in proper order, and they want to express the psychological reality of mankind, and that's why they violate the unity of time, place and action. So everything looks very hazy and haphazard. Okay, why? Because they are trying to portray, they are trying to express the characters and actions as they actually take place in the mind. Okay, so that's why it happens. So since their main focus, the writers, they mainly focus on the psychological impressions, that's why such things, no chronology is found in such literature. Here their main aim is to force the readers to focus on why and how they occur, rather the literal timeline in which they actually occur in real life. So that's why you do not find proper unity of time, place and action. So friends, these are the four major important features of Impressionistic literature. But at the end, now let's have a look at important writers of Impressionistic literature and their important works. The most dominant among them is Joseph Conrad. He has written the novel Heart of Darkness. James Joyce, his novel Ulysses, a portrait of the artist as a young man. All these works are full of Impressionism. Henry James, in the beginning of the 20th century, Charles Baudelaire, okay, Henry James has written The Portrait of a Lady. Daisy Miller, Charles Baudelaire, a French writer, he has also written Impressionistic novels during his lifetime. So all in all, now let's conclude this discussion by saying that this movement called Impressionism is related with psychological expression of the writer's mind. Okay, what they have received, what impressions they have received about life, about society, they try to express in their literature, and that's why it is known as Impressionistic novels or Impressionistic literatures. Joseph Conrad, Henry James, Charles Baudelaire, James Joyce, these are the major writers of such literature. This movement, as I told you, was found at the end of the 19th century and also in the beginning of the 20th century. One important thing, last thing that I want to tell you about this is that this impressionistic movement actually began a new era in the field of writing English novels. Why? Because in the beginning of the 20th century, we have the new kind of novel which are known as psychological novels, which was developed further by Virginia Woolf. So this the window to this new kind of novel was opened up by these writers of Impressionistic novels, and the result is we got a new kind of novels in the beginning of the 20th century known as psychological novels. So friends, here we come to the end of this discussion. If you have any doubts or questions, do write to me in the comment section of this channel, and please do subscribe to this channel and hit on the bell icon so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get the notification. Thank you very much.